War in the NFC East, and the Commanders have the firepower. First, a confession that hurts more than a fumble in the red zone. Did you know another team stole a superstar from the draft that should have been ours? The numbers don't lie. And Adam Peters is already cleaning up the mess. Second, that stellar cornerback we only knew from the infirmaries just returned with a vengeance. If he stays fit, Doc and Yallen will be crying in the pocket. And third, get ready for the bomb Colin Cowherd dropped. Our QB isn't a promise. He is untouchable. Compared to Mahomes, stats, playoffs, and a salary. Bomb that will change everything. Subscribe now. I'll reveal how this explosive triangle, pass mistake plus lethal defense plus godly QB sets us on the road to the Super Bowl. Or leaves us watching glory pass by from the couch. Like and subscribe. Or you'll never know where the error was that cost us millions. Let's start with something that pains all of us who live and breathe burgundy and gold. Remember those dark years between 2019 and 2023? Remember when Ron Rivera arrived promising a damn culture, and the only damn thing was his draft decisions? Well, one of those decisions has just been named one of the biggest steals of the 2021 draft, but not for us. And when I tell you the details, you'll understand why Dan Quinn and Adam Peters are here now, cleaning up the disaster left by the previous administration. In the second round of 2021, pick number 82, the Commanders selected Dammy Brown from North Carolina. The expectation was crystal clear. We desperately needed a receiver to complement Terry McLaurin, someone who could be that deep threat we sorely missed after losing Deshaun Jackson. And do you know what we expected from Brown? A 6'1", 189-pound receiver with a 40-yard dash speed of 4.45. Scouts said he had reliable hands and the ability to win battles in the air. On paper, he sounded perfect to be the number 2 behind Terry. But here comes the brutal reality. In 4 seasons with Washington, Brown never, and I repeat, never managed to establish himself as that second option. His numbers are painful to review. In 2021, 12 receptions, 165 yards, 0 touchdowns. In 2022, 33 receptions, 435 yards, 3 touchdowns. His best numbers came in 2023 with 43 receptions, 424 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Do you know what his problem was? Brown could look amazing in practice, could shine in minicamp, but when it was showtime, when the lights came on Sundays, he just couldn't translate that talent into consistent production. And here's what really hurts. While we were picking Brown at pick 82, there was a receiver available that fans were clamoring for on every social media platform, in all forums, in every draft conversation. Almnevra St. Brown. And do you know where he was picked? Pick 112, 30 picks later, by the Detroit Lions. 30 picks separated the Commanders from having one of the best receivers in the current league. I tell you this, and listen closely, Amon-Ra St. Brown was just named by Damian Parson of Bleacher Report as one of the biggest draft steals. And do you know why? Because in 3 seasons, he's proven to be one of the best pound-for-pound receivers in the entire NFL. Check out these numbers and cry with me. In 2022, St. Brown had 106 receptions for 1,161 yards and 6 touchdowns. In 2023, 119 receptions, 1,515 yards, and 10 touchdowns. This is a receiver who has had TWO consecutive seasons with more than 100 receptions. Do you know how many receivers in NFL history have achieved that in their first 3 seasons? Very few. And we had him right there, available, waiting to be picked. The most painful irony is that St. Brown only played 6 games at USC in 2020 due to injury. And that was enough for teams like ours to doubt. But the Lions saw beyond that. They saw a receiver more NFL ready than many others in that class. And do you know what the Lions saw that we didn't? They saw a player with a fighter's mentality. Someone who had grown up in a family of elite athletes, with the discipline and work ethic to translate his talent into immediate production. Now, I ask you this, how many more games will we have? One in those tough seasons of 2021, 2022, and 2023 if we had Amon-Ra St. Brown beside Terry McLaurin? How many times would Carson Wentz, Taylor Heinicke, and even Sam Howell have had a more reliable option in critical moments? Do you know what's more frustrating? That when Jaden Daniels arrived last year and had that historic season, imagine what he could have done with St. Brown as his number 2 receiver instead of having to rely on Jahan Dotson and other receivers who never really established themselves. Cowboys have CeeDee Lamb. Eagles have A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. Giants now have Malik Neighbors. And we could have had Terry McLaurin and Amon-Ra St. Brown as our lethal duo for the next 5 years. But this is exactly why Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are here now. Because we needed people who could truly evaluate talent, not people swayed by combined metrics and spring practices without real substance. Do you think Peters would have made the same mistake? Do you think with his experience in San Francisco, where they developed receivers like Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk, he would have passed on a talent like St. Brown? If that frustrates you, wait to hear this because we have news about our defense that will completely change the narrative of what we can expect this season. After years of watching receivers like CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and even Malik Neighbors destroy our defense twice a year, finally, we have legitimate reasons to believe things will be different in 2025. Ben Standig of The Athletic, one of the most connected journalists with the organization, just gave Commanders fans something we haven't had in years. Real hope about our secondary. Remember the trade we made to bring Marshon Latimore from New Orleans? We were all excited because we were finally going to have a legitimate number 1 cornerback, someone who had been selected to the Pro Bowl 4 times and knew what it was like to cover elite receivers. But then the injuries came. Latimore missed critical games, and when he played, he wasn't at 100%. It was frustrating because we could see flashes of his talent, but we never got the complete and healthy version of the player we traded for. Well, according to Standig, that is about to change dramatically. Latimore arrived healthy at minicamp after the necessary rest he had in the offseason, and for the first time since arriving in Washington, he is completely healthy. And do you know why this is absolutely crucial for us? Because if Latimore can stay healthy week after week, he and our second-round pick Trey Amos had the potential to be a lethal duo against the star receivers of the NFC East. But don't just take my word for it. Let's analyze the numbers and the technical context of what this means for our defensive scheme. Latimore at his best is an elite cornerback who can play both man-to-man and zone coverage. His specialty is completely eliminating the opposing team's number 1 receiver, allowing the rest of the defense to make more aggressive adjustments. When Latimore is healthy, he can run with fast receivers, can use his 6'2" frame to win battles in the air against taller receivers, and has the experience to not fall for double moves or complex route combinations. Do you know what that means tactically? That Dan Quinn can be more creative with his blitz packages because he doesn't have to constantly send safety help to Latimore's side. Now, let's talk about Trey Amos, our second-round pick from Alabama. This kid arrived with serious credentials. In his last season at Alabama, he had 37 tackles, 2 interceptions, and 8 pass breakups. But the most important thing is that he played in Nick Saban's program, where he learned the right fundamentals from day one. And do you know what I love about Amos's selection? That Adam Peters wasn't swayed by desperate need. He selected the best quarterback available at that moment, someone who can contribute immediately, but also has the potential to develop into a star. But here comes something that has me super excited. Jonathan Jones, coming from New England with quality playoff and Super Bowl experience. Jones isn't a star, but he is exactly the type of veteran presence we need in that defensive backfield. Do you know why Jones is perfect for us? Because he's played in complex systems, understands advanced route concepts, and can teach our young cornerbacks how to study film and prepare during the week. And here's what really excites me. With Jones potentially covering outside with Latimore and Amos, Mike Sanristo can return to his natural inside position. Remember how well Sanristo played as a rookie? The guy impressed everyone playing on the boundary, but his true talent lies in the slot. Sanristo has the quickness to cover fast receivers on short routes, has the hands to intercept passes, and has the instinct to read young quarterbacks. Do you know what this means for our pass rush? If our secondary can maintain coverage for 3 or 4 more seconds, that gives extra time for Dorrance Armstrong, Clelin Ferrell, and our pass rushers to get to the quarterback. Cowboys have to deal with Doc trying to find options against Latimore covering C.D. Lamb. Eagles are going to have to see Jalen Hurts looking for a Jaden Brown with our number 1 cornerback on him. Giants are going to have to rely on Daniel Jones finding Malik Neighbors against a secondary that finally has real depth. I believe that this versatility is going to be key. Standig also mentions Noah Igbenogany, who finally showed some of his pre-draft potential in 2024. We're talking about real depth, people. Depth we haven't had since the days of Darryl Green and Art Monk. Do you know why all this gives me so much optimism? Because Dan Quinn knows exactly how to use talented cornerbacks. In Dallas, he turned Trevon Diggs into a ball hawk, maximized DeMarcus Lawrence's talent, and created a defense that could compete with any offense in the league. Now I ask you, can you imagine Dak Prescott, who already struggles against complex defenses, trying to read this secondary twice a year? Can you see Jalen Hurts, who relies heavily on a Jaden Brown, having to look for secondary options because Latimore is taking out his favorite receiver? Of course, it's easy to get too excited at this time of year. But after years of watching slot receivers and tight ends systematically exploit our defense, we finally have the right pieces to compete. Do you believe this secondary will be the difference between making the playoffs again and making a real run to the Super Bowl? Because I tell you, if we can shut down those prolific aerial attacks on our 2025 calendar, that will make a monumental difference. But here comes the really crazy part, and when you hear this, you'll understand why everything we're building makes perfect sense. Colin Cowherd just did something I never thought I'd hear after just 1 season in the NFL. He just put our quarterback, Jaden Daniels, in a conversation usually reserved for Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen of this world. Can you believe that? We're talking about our rookie quarterback in the same terms as quarterbacks who have won MVPs and Super Bowls. After decades of mediocrity at the position, we finally have someone national analysts are placing in the elite category, COWHERD, named Jaden Daniels as the 7th most untradeable athlete in a LL Sports. Not just in the NFL, in a LL Sports. That means, according to COWHERD, only 6 athletes worldwide are more valuable to their organizations than our quarterback. Do you know what COWHERD said exactly? I think he is our next superstar in the NFL. I think last year was by far the best rookie season. Relevance, maturity, arm, movement for the nation's capital. There's an argument that in the next 20 years, they could become the Kansas City of the NFC. Nitrogen monoxide way. Did you hear that? Kansas City of the NFC. After years of being the franchise everyone mocked, from name changes to toxic owners to wasted draft picks, we finally have someone nationally saying we can be the next dynasty. But don't just go with COWHERD's words. Let's analyze the numbers that back that historic rookie season he mentions. Jaden Daniels completed 69% of his passes. Do you know how many rookies in NFL history have completed more than 68% of their passes? Very few. And we're talking about a quarterback who was not only accurate, but was making the right decisions under pressure. 3,568 passing yards in his rookie season. To put that in perspective, that's more yards than Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, and Daniel Jones had in their rookie seasons combined. Daniels wasn't just managing the offense. He was being elite-level productive. 25 touchdowns against just 9 interceptions. That ratio of 2.8 to 1 is extraordinary for any quarterback, let alone a rookie learning to read NFL defenses for the first time. But here comes the statistic that really blows my mind. A PFF grade of 90.6, sixth best in the entire league. That means, according to Pro Football Focus, only 5 quarterbacks in the entire NFL play better than our rookie Dot. Do you know which quarterbacks were above him? Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Josh Jacobs, in some specific metrics. We're talking about MVPs and established quarterbacks with years of experience. But more important than the individual stats is the context of what Daniels accomplished with this organization. He took a team that had won 4 games the previous season and led them to the NFC Championship game. Do you remember that Hail Mary against Chicago? That wasn't just a lucky pass. That was a demonstration of what separates special quarterbacks from average ones. The ability to create magic when all seems lost. And do you recall how he managed the pressure in the playoffs against Tampa Bay? Tom Brady, with all his experience, couldn't do what Daniels did in that stadium. Under that pressure, in his first playoff season, I believe COWHERD is seeing exactly what we Commanders fans see every day. A quarterback who not only has the arm and mobility, but the mentality and maturity to lead a franchise for the next 10 to 15 years. COWHERD says Daniels is behind only Mahomes and Allen in terms of untouchable value. He's speaking of something deeper than just talent. He's talking about the combination of skill, age, contract situation, and growth potential. Do you know why that comparison is so significant? Because both Mahomes and Allen completely transformed the culture of their franchises. Chiefs went from being a team that could never win in the playoffs to a dynasty. Bills went from 17 years without playoffs to being annual contenders. Do you know what's the craziest thing about all this? Daniels is still on his rookie contract. While Cowboys are paying $40 million a year to Dak Prescott, Eagles have Jalen Hurts with a huge contract, and Giants are paying Daniel Jones franchise quarterback money. We have the best quarterback in the division for a fraction of the cost. That means Adam Peters can use that salary cap space to build around Daniels. He can bring offensive weapons, improve the offensive line, add defensive pieces, all while having his star quarterback on a team-friendly contract. Now, COWHERD admits some will think it's insane to put Daniels in that elite category after just 1 season. But I ask you, how many rookies have taken a team from the basement of the division to 1 game away from the Super Bowl? How many rookies have had to deal with the pressure of playing in Washington, D.C., with all the history of this organization, all the expectations of a hungry fan base, and emerged not just successful, but brilliant? And do you know what separates Daniels from other young, promising quarterbacks? His ability to elevate the game of players around him. Terry McLaurin had one of his best seasons. The offensive line played better. The running backs were more productive. When you have a quarterback who makes everyone else play better, that's when you know you have something special. That's what Mahomes did in Kansas City, what Allen did in Buffalo, and what Daniels is doing here in Washington. I tell you this, and hear me out, COWHERD isn't just making hot takes reviews. He's seen the future of the NFL, and that future includes Jaden Daniels dominating the NFC for the next 10 years. Do you think COWHERD is exaggerating? Or do you believe we finally have our franchise quarterback, the one we've been waiting for since the Super Bowl days of the 80s and 90s? Look, folks, these 3 stories tell us a complete story about where we are as an organization. We have the painful mistakes of the past, reminding us why we needed a total change. We have tangible defensive improvements, showing that the new administration knows exactly what they're doing. And we have national recognition that our quarterback isn't just good. He's generational. What do you think about that draft mistake that still haunts us? Do you believe our secondary will finally be good enough to compete against the Cowboys and Eagles? And do you agree with COWHERD that Jaden Daniels already deserves to be in that elite conversation? I need you to leave your comments because this burgundy and gold family deserves to have these conversations. If you believe Peters and Quinn have us on the right path, give this video a like. If you believe 2025 is going to be our year to do something historic, subscribe because you'll want to be here for every moment of this journey. This community is more than just followers of a channel. We're a family that has suffered together and will celebrate together when we reach where we know we belong. Subscribe. Be a part of this family that bleeds burgundy and gold, because I guarantee this will be the year that changes everything. And remember, hail to the Redskins!